So aloha everyone. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity to spend time with you all today. So over the next few minutes, I'll be taking you on a journey which resulted in a number of decolonial outcomes. But first, I wanted to share with you another journey which occurred on February 15th of 1824, when our King Kamehameha II, Liholiho, met with Emperor Dom Pedro in 1824. This was the first time that a ship from Hawaii had ever stopped at Rio de Janeiro. And our chiefs, there was an entourage with them, met with the emperor and received a royal welcome. In an exchange of gifts, the emperor gave Liholiho a diamond encrusted sword with a gold sheath, and his queen Kamamalu received a diamond ring. For Hawaiians, they offered the emperor a cloak made with red and yellow feathers, and Kamamalu, the queen, offered a yellow feathered necklace or lei. For Hawaiians, these feathered gifts are offerings of the highest order, the most valuable of items that Hawaiian chiefs possessed, and their gifting created lasting relationships. Unfortunately, we believe that these mea vaivai ali'i, or chiefly adornments, were lost in the fire at Brazil's National Museum in 2018. Nonetheless, while the physical manifestation of this historic meeting is gone, our enduring connections continue. So in terms of my own personal journey, in 2014, I traveled to England with a friend, Native Hawaiian artist and professor Maile Andrade. She had been invited to serve on an advisory board for a major Pacific exhibition. They would be having a meeting and a conference, and I became her +1 or her guest. So I had never been to Cambridge before, and it was there that we encountered the colonial beast, where it was born, was nurtured, and where it emanated from, expanding outward and replicating itself. Signs noted that the University of Cambridge had recently celebrated its 800th birthday. 8 centuries of Western scholarship, which included collecting, studying, and interpreting the world through their academic and largely white male privileged eyes. We encountered the Royal Academy of Arts in London, which swiftly was approaching its own 250th anniversary, which coincided with Cook's voyages across the Pacific. That is where the grand exhibition was planned to open in 2018. But we also encountered each other. We were few in number, but represented many. Indigenous folks from Papua New Guinea, New Caledonia, Aotearoa, Hawaii. Unbeknownst to me, however, there were even more of us in Cambridge than I realized. 20 ancestral Native Hawaiians were held in the bowels of the Cambridge Duckworth Laboratory, residing among some 18,000 others in what is one of the largest repositories of human remains in the world. The conference provided the opportunity for repatriation advocate and activist Halealoha Ayau to come to Cambridge. The two of us walked over to Duckworth, where we met men, women, young, old, whose po'o or heads had been stolen from their lands and families, all between 1860 and 1903. We were the first Hawaiians to touch them, to speak to them in more than a century. We also met with the Cambridge University Registry and one of their attorneys. In true colonial fashion, Cambridge argued that these kupuna were of great scientific value, while simultaneously maintaining that there was insufficient evidence to prove they were Hawaiian. It was a contested meeting where Halealoha called them intellectual savages. Yet he followed up later with a box of chocolate macadamia nuts. We had learned not to be hostile all the time. Thus began over 5 years of research to prove that these ancestors were undoubtedly Native Hawaiian. During this process, research would uncover the fact that Cambridge, in an official response to the state of Hawaii in the early 1990s, denied the presence of these ancestral remains. Returning back to 2014, it was an opportunity for the few natives to get to know each other better. And being in a foreign land in the belly of the beast created a solidarity among us. And we often stayed up late into the night, conspiring over coffee or beer, sharing our successes, our failures. Rare natives working in the trenches of Western institutions. It was at one such meeting when a curator from Te Papa Tongareva in New Zealand suggested that the time might have come for us in Hawaii to ask for Kalaniʻopuʻu's cloak back. This was perhaps the most famous cloak in the world, feathered cloak in the world. It bore witness to the moment of Europe's first encounter with Hawaii in 1778, when High Chief Kalaniʻopuʻu threw his own ahu'ula, or feathered cloak, over Captain Cook's shoulders. This fledgling talk led to community and institutional conversations, which led to even more talks. And unbelievably, 2 years later, in 2016, Te Papa Museum agreed to a 10-year loan of Kalaniʻopuʻu's chiefly adornments. The ceremonies and protocols at Te Papa Museum and Bishop Museum were conducted almost exclusively in Maori and Hawaiian. The mana was stratospheric. The world shook and it emanated from Oceania. In 2020, Te Papa Tongareva's board perfected the loan to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and Bishop Museum, and Kalaniʻopuʻu's ahu'ula and mahiole are now permanently home. What makes this a decolonial act? That decision-making occurred not because of its colonial context, but in spite of it. Issues of provenance, of legal ownership mattered less than the fact that what left Hawaii by an act of Pacific generosity was returned by an act of Pacific generosity. Ethics, humanity, mana, relationships, that is what mattered. As many said, it was the right thing to do. We also knew that it was not just High Chief Kalaniʻopuʻu's belongings that were present. He himself had been made manifest. Organizers of the Oceania exhibition back in London were keenly aware of the celebrated return of Kalaniʻopuʻu's cloak, and in a moment of irony, put out feelers. Might the cloak travel back to England to be put on display to highlight this profound moment of encounter? So my response was that they should commission the creation of a new cloak alongside with an explanation that Kalaniʻopuʻu's cloak was finally home where it truly belonged. While this suggestion didn't go anywhere, the curators did invite my participation on other aspects of the exhibition, including contributing to a catalog essay, providing information on the feathered god images seen above, and helping to facilitate the placement of a malo or loincloth on our god Ku. And I want to recognize Kamala Dupre in the audience with us today as the one who both made the malo and placed it upon him for the opening ceremonies. The exhibition opened to great fanfare and celebration. After a highly successful run, its closing was to coincide with a conference I was invited to. And I was asked to share my exhibition response alongside the two curators of the show, Nicholas Thomas and Peter Brunt. I'm just going to share a few brief sentences, paragraphs from that presentation, because this is an example of what decolonization looks like. This is what truth-telling in real time feels like. And I'm not going to lie, it was really, really hard. So just a few paragraphs I'm sharing. Increasingly, we banter about the term shared authority as evidence of a decolonial museum practice. We see inviting community in to share in the decision-making as progress. And yet we all know that most museums view shared authority as really ceding authority. They perceive it as a loss, that they are relinquishing control over their collections, their exhibitions, and their historical legacy. But we can also think of seed in another way, S-E-E-D, meaning to plant something, to nurture and grow and bear fruit, to be generative. So how might Oceania be reflected upon in this light? I wish instead that there had been true collaboration in the curatorial choices, from gallery themes to individual items to their interpretation. I wish that instead of intentionally selecting treasures that were freely gifted, that the curators had chosen material that truly embodied and confronted the colonial experience, the introduction of foreign diseases and their devastating impacts. Instead, contemporary works of art were expected to carry the burden of these contested exchanges. I wish the exhibition had addressed historical trauma and its ongoing effects. Instead, we were left with contemporary fears of tsunamis and rising tides. We, and this includes a largely European audience, are thus excused from addressing past harms and the specific and deliberate role European nations had in colonizing, altering, converting, and otherwise destroying indigenous Pacific communities. Left in its place is an exhibition that nonetheless speaks volumes. The power of this exhibition is in the persistence of ancestral mana alongside the realization that those who would most benefit, who most deserve to see that which is gathered here, are absent. As both test and testament, this exhibition simultaneously solidifies and strains contemporary relations, just as our original Pacific encounters did centuries ago. And so this is what happened after our presentations. We hugged and our relationship survived because it was an honest and truthful exchange that was not meant to disparage, but to seed for our collective future. Yet this exhibition also provided an opportunity for continued dialogue around the repatriation of Iwi Kupuna from Cambridge and the Duckworth Laboratory. We were able to access the archives and meet with staff throughout the claims process. And as a result of the Cambridge claims process, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs hired the services of two experts, Dr. Cressida Ford and Dr. Alan Goodman, to assist in the historic documentation and physical anthropological claim. In 2019, the formal claim was submitted and wound its way through multiple levels of review. Finally, we received word that it had been approved, and 20 iwi kupuna would finally be coming home after a 10-year effort. So just with the last few minutes, I want to make a few points. Normally, the process of the transfer of ancestral remains home is a closed one, done under cover of night. And even those who may have helped to facilitate the return are not necessarily present and included. But a decision was made and has been made over the course of the last several years to be inclusive in this process. And as a consequence, what has happened is that we've shared meals, embraced, shed tears and beers with those institutions who once slammed doors in our faces and who held our ancestors captive for well over a century. Top governmental and university officials have offered their apologies in public and private settings and admitted to theft in press releases issued nationally and globally. This process is not easy, yet the work has also been profound, the relationships enduring and life-changing. And we continue to host one another abroad. These changes came about because of our willing to open up the process of healing and to ensure that when these individuals apologize, that they do so in the presence of the iwi kupuna, our ancestors themselves. I'm going to stop here. If we have time, eventually I'd like to share a very brief 3-minute video, but maybe I'll leave it to the organizers to let me know whether we have time.
Noelle, I would say go ahead and share it if you, because okay. I think we have time and we can have a shorter conversation and answer some questions as that we have in the space. But I feel like it would be really rewarding to see the video that you have, especially with it being 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much, and I will share that right now.
So they all were taken without consent, without notification, without discussion. The majority of them were taken during the time of the kingdom. And we've had to practically scour the planet looking at institutions based on what countries were in Hawaii in the early period of contact. Cambridge responded and said they did not have any remains, which wasn't true.
And if we had just stopped there, you know, and not pursued it anymore, these 20 iwi kupuna who have come home now would still be there.
Today we recognize and celebrate aloha, our love for ohana, for family, which is one of the greatest loves of all. It always starts with a request to make our family whole again. We honor you, the leaders of Cambridge University, for your courage to help us heal our kaumaha, our traumatic pain caused by the separation, and our innate desire to seek to return the ancestors to their moeloa, their eternal sleep after more than a century of being disturbed.
The significance of this trip for me was that Cambridge University apologized for the actions of its predecessors.
Today's ceremony cannot possibly repair the hurt caused by the extraction of the iwi, but it is a necessary and long-delayed act of justice. It is a sign of our deepest respect for your kupuna. It is a sign of our deepest respect for your culture. It's a sign of our deepest respect for you.
What was very impactful about Cambridge's statement said by their Vice Chancellor was he actually apologized for the behavior of his ancestors.
And I'm grateful for the opportunity you have given us to repair the damage caused by some of our own ancestors. To your kupuna, I say, I am sorry that your voyage home has been so long interrupted, but I hope that you may now travel back in peace.
Even though this is the 120th repatriation case that we've done, we have no way to gauge how successful we've been, because we have no idea how many of them are out there. It's also important to note that it wasn't just institutions that took them, it's private individuals. So hopefully by the end of the summer, they'll be back in the ground.
Thank you.
You ever wondered what actors and actresses
Thank you.